Here we go. All right, we are live. Hello, Kevin again. How
Hi,
you
John.
doing,
It's
mate?
great to be back. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was really great to connect with you when we did. A couple of weeks ago. I can't even remember when we first met, but yeah, you've been through quite a lot, but you're such a chilled out dude. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're so open and kind of humble and unassuming because you've seen a lot, haven't you? I mean, you've gone through a lot.
Yeah. Well, you kind of learn over the years as you go with this. It's natural selection process. It tends to weed out when you're under a lot of pressure. Tends to weed out people who can't keep up, right? And
Mm.
also, being the way I am, it's one of the reasons people came to me, Native people and others. I'm very approachable, and people trusted me and shared
Mm.
their story with me. So that's an advantage, right? Too. Ego always gets in the way of doing anything effective, right? And
Yeah.
we're the result of many people before and the people who follow us. I mean, we're part of that continuum, and that's the way I always see it, right? It isn't about one leader, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing with the leadership as well is that people consider a leader to be a kind of a top-down thing,
Uh-huh.
whereas I just think a true leader is almost um, they're like a facilitator for others to get into their power. There's no top-down looking, the Tony Robbins style of like getting on stage and being all this like
Oh no,
pumped-up balloon animal
celebrity.
kind of leader.
Uh, well,
It's just yeah.
early on, I didn't mention this. When I was quite young, I took a trip to Guatemala and lived with the Mayan people there for a little while.
Mm.
And when through the translator, they were telling me that you know, they said, look around. Our leaders you can't see because they're always the poorest ones. They're the ones who serve the people every day, and they never think about themselves. And I mean, that's a
Mm.
traditional indigenous way to look at things, right? Or Jesus said, this what the you're not to lord it over each other, but you're to be the servant of all, right? In a good
Yeah.
sense, not in a slavish sense, but I think that's common sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Yeah. When I would think I mentioned before about the alpha male, Darren, a friend of mine, told me this. I can't claim this one, but an alpha is the first letter of the alphabet. It's the one that goes first. So it's the one that's able to stand out of the group first, to go through the forest first, to get hurt first, to allow a clearing
Right,
behind them for others to follow. And it
right,
takes a lot of courage to be that first outlier, the first person to step outside the group consciousness and go, hang on, something's not right here. And all
right,
major paradigm shifts in history have always come from those small minority of people who uncomfortably stand outside the group to just go, hang on a minute, I don't agree with this. And then
that's right.
there's a slow tipping point, and then there's a paradigm shift. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, by the way, Kevin, so our interview yesterday? What did you think? Did you manage to have a look at it?
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I've circulated all through our networks, and people love it because
Yeah,
they like our interaction.
yeah,
That conversational style. People really appreciate it, and
yeah.
also, the recent information. I think it's important to just keep sharing that because, like we talked about, the
Mm.
not only the censorship, but people's attention span. It tends to go like that these days, right? And we got to keep reminding people of things, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, if you're watching, guys, please don't have TikTok brain here. Try and at least give it a few minutes and try and settle into this, because I know what it's like when you kind of the dopamine's firing and you just want to like doom scroll. I
Right.
do that, which I'm guilty of that. But yeah, and I mean, Kevin, so the chat that we had yesterday, for people that didn't watch it, just to recap on that, I mean, if you can even recap on it, I mean, I think it's one of the most explosive, yeah, interviews I've ever done, to be honest with you, and it's the most, um, yeah, it's like far-reaching kind of topics that you could cover. I mean, what you're talking about there could bring the whole system down.
Well, that's the thing, we're not just talking about the problem, but over the years we've developed alternatives of way to overcome it. And the best example is when we forced Pope Benedict to resign. Um, People couldn't understand first how that was possible, and yet it was simply a matter of having the evidence, not giving it up, and then strategically thinking, where should we best place this? The evidence of Pope Benedict authorizing the trafficking and killing of children, we put in the hands of people who we knew would use it, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So we know the Spanish government and the Vatican had been having a falling out. So we handed it over to people we knew connected to the Spanish courts. And sure enough, they're the ones who really forced Ratzinger's resignation. They said if he came to Spain, he might face arrest for being involved in the trafficking and death of children. 6 days later, he resigns. You know, so that's not coincidental. Yeah. And you got to think strategically.
So you actually took the, so for people listening here, you took the Pope to court.
Right. In July 2012, we set up a common law court of justice in Brussels and ran it like a regular court, issued subpoenas to 30 people, including Queen of England, Pope Benedict, heads of church and state, mostly in Canada, because it was based on the work we'd been doing for years about genocide in Canada, and issued summonses. They didn't respond, which was a confession of guilt on their part under law. They didn't dispute what we were saying about them. But then we, what our secret weapon was, we put it in the hands of European governments because we knew that they had the leverage we didn't have. And like I say, we exploited that struggle. You know, the way the opposition always divides and conquers us, well, we did the same with them. We found out where their weakness was, like Sun Tzu says in the Art of War, find out where they're weak and press it. And we did, and look at the result. And not only Ratzinger, but 3 other cardinals stepped down. They'd all be named in our indictment. Sean Brady in Ireland, the head of the Jesuits, Adolfo Pichon, and even the Secretary of State, Tarcisio Bertone, they all stepped down after they'd been named in our indictment. So we say, people, this is a result of our citizens' common law court that exposed them. Look at the power we have. And after that, it really has blossomed all over the world, this common law movement, right?
Yeah. So that's incredible. I mean, so is it enforceable? Because I know a lot of people, they're going to hear that and said, yo, you took someone to a common law court. I mean, he didn't show up, right? That's the whole thing. So, and then it's like, that's guilt through admit. What's the technical term by that? De facto guilt or something? I don't know what.
Pro confesso. It was, you know, when they chopped up King Charles's head in England, he refused to plea, and so the court said, then you're not contesting that you're a war criminal. They didn't use that term, but he waged a war against Parliament and the people in the pay of the Vatican. He tried to overthrow Parliament, right, and reimpose autocracy on England, and he didn't contest that he did that, so they executed him on that basis. Same thing here. You know, the thing we got to tell people about common law is it works. It's a win-win, because if they do respond, they've acknowledged the authority of your court, right? They say you're a legitimate court. If they don't, they've admitted tacitly to their own guilt and they lose. So, you know, just look at the result and you see the power we have. Don't look at the way you're always brainwashed by the system that you have no power. That isn't true at all, right?
Yeah. So who can set up a common law court? Are there any rules behind that, or can just one man set up their own court?
Well, one person can issue a call. It's called a statement of claim. And let's say you've got a dispute against whoever, right? You state it out. And this is in my common law training manual book, which you can get from me. It gives you the 12-step procedure. But you issue the statement of claim, and then you put a call out for a jury, because they're the real power in a common law court. It's not the judge, it's the jury. And then you gather, you know, you have to have your ducks in order. You've got to have your evidence. You have a citizen prosecutor. You're structured like a regular court. And then the fun begins, because it's basically a public indictment of individuals, including, you know, the old saying, be you ever so high, you're not above the law. Elizabeth Windsor, Joseph Ratzinger, as individuals, they can be tried, even though they're queens and popes and anyone. Their authority of office doesn't protect them from their liability as an individual, and you get them on that basis.
Right? And you can actually, I mean, can we enforce it? Can we go and chop people's heads off or not? You know, like what's the enforcement arm of this? You know?
That's the beauty of common law. Under common law tradition, everyone is empowered to enforce the verdict. You know, so all citizens, let's say the verdict came down that Queen of England was guilty of crimes against humanity. Everyone in the Commonwealth had the obligation then to help detain her. to seize crown property as the avails of genocide, right? To deputize crown, police and others to act as an agent of the court. Now, what holds us back is not the power of the enemy; it's the cop in our head that's always telling us, "You can't do that. You don't have the power. You're going to get arrested. Don't even try it." I mean, that's the real enemy: our own fear and ignorance.
Yeah, right. So technically, before she died, anyone could have just gone up to her and done a citizen's arrest on her.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in Canada, and I believe in England too, the citizen arrest laws have been expanded so that before you had to have seen a crime taking place to perform an arrest. Let's say somebody was hitting a child. You could detain that person, call the police. Now, if you even suspect that this person is involved in a crime, you can detain them. So, I mean, the sky's the limit there, because every Catholic priest in the world is part of a criminal conspiracy to protect child rapists. So you can, I suspect every one of these priests could be harboring child rapists and helping harm children. You can detain them. You can seize their church property.
Wow.
I mean, the power in our hands is incredible, but it's the sleeping giant in our head, right? We've got to awaken that. That's our job, right? Lead by example.
We've got kind of the wrong thought process around it, and we're hypnotized with different thought forms and ways of doing things. We need to kind of rearrange that and get that clear and realize we have the power. We can, we're the authorities, we're the authors here, but we've been brainwashed into thinking we're the serfs and we're, please daddy, look after us and give us some crumbs kind of thing. It's a mindset thing, isn't it?
There's a thing too called the tyranny of everyday life. I love that expression because it's like normalcy conditions us to think, okay, there's a boss, we follow orders, the police tell us what to do. It's just ingrained at every moment. And yet that's all happening with our consent. We're not victims. Yeah. We're all cooperating to some degree, and we can pull back that cooperation. That's the point, right?
Yeah. My mate wrote a book called The Cult of Culture, which is kind of similar sort of thing, talking about that kind of the cult of everyday life that we just take for granted. We think it's the natural way, but it's actually that we've fallen into it and we don't know any different. But there should be other ways to do things. And so, yeah, so let's talk about so just for anyone watching here as well. So Kevin took this is incredible. Took the Pope to court, and you took Queen Elizabeth II to court, to a common law court. They both didn't show up, which is great because then it shows that they're admitting guilt. They were still trialed and they were convicted of. Well, the Queen was convicted of life imprisonment without parole, right? Same for the Pope.
All defendants, yes.
Yeah. Right.
So I mean, the result is that Ratzinger, the Pope, didn't even, till the day he died, he didn't leave the Vatican. That's because he knows that he could have been arrested. Like if they were so powerful, he'd be walking around. He'd treat us with total contempt and ignore the verdict, but he didn't. He stayed. We had him under house arrest in the Vatican. He didn't leave because any court in the world can issue a verdict, or not a verdict, I'm sorry. Any court in the world can issue a warrant, an arrest warrant based on our verdict. That's the power. Once you have a verdict in a common law court, it can be enacted by any other court as well, right?
So did you try and get any, deputize any sheriffs or, like trying to get any people to enforce it then? Did you actually get a group of people to try and arrest him?
Well, not with Ratzinger. We couldn't get to him, but the present guy, Jorge Bergoglio, so-called Pope Francis, there were 2 attempts to arrest him because he's guilty by association. He's the CEO of a criminally convicted body. Even if he wasn't involved in these same crimes, which he is, he could still be arrested on that basis as what they call command responsibility. Like King Charles, he had his head chopped off because he had command responsibility for all of the crimes of the Civil War.
Yeah,
I mean, same with any pope that's sitting there, any cardinal, they're responsible for criminal actions. So twice, once in Switzerland, once in Italy, the commissaires came very close to actually grabbing the guy. And
wow,
no, I can send you the links about that. But I mean, when it happened, but no, it shows you that they're really on the defensive. They, and that is a result of our actions. right?
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what would happen if, yeah, like let's say you had some people to, I mean, who would have gone over there and arrested them? I guess it would have had to been some kind of officer, right? Or not?
It could be
Or
anyone,
anyone?
any citizen, any deputized sheriff,
Yeah.
anybody.
Okay.
And don't forget, it's not about, like, the English word arrest is some arrêt in French, to stop.
Yeah.
The point is to stop them, not necessarily take one person and put them in the slammer, right? I mean, that's not, it's really aimed at their system. And that's why we emphasize, like, seizing the assets and properties of the criminally convicted organization, which you can do even under the UN, even under international law. A transnational criminal organization that launders money for the mob, that traffics children, that commits genocide, you're obligated to seize their assets because they're going to use them for criminal purposes. So we're obligated to go in and seize Catholic churches and Anglican churches in England.
That's incredible. What would happen though if you just like grabbed the, let's say when she was alive, you just grabbed the Queen, you're coming with me, like you'd get shot, wouldn't you?
No, well, I mean, you use reasonable force. Okay, so you don't go and hit her on the head. You just detain her. Like, and this is about of course she's dead now, but with Charlie Boy, same deal. You go in and you inform his security retinue that they're complicit in a crime by protecting him. You try to deputize him. You go peacefully and try to detain the guy. But think, it's not so much getting him as the theater around that. Like, okay, anybody wants to come and arrest Charles Windsor? Come on, we're going to meet at this place, and you got a big crowd. I mean, it's a great educational device, and that's like, there's no final outcome. You do something, you learn. You maneuver. It's like an ongoing battle, and that's the trouble with people. They think in very short-term, quick solutions. Okay, we'll do this and we'll fix things. It doesn't happen like that. It's a long-term, ongoing war, right?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Fair enough. So it's sort of like you go in, it doesn't work. You it's like, oh yeah, Art of War. You drop back, you adjust, and then you go in again, and it's a constant dance, constant war of trying to chip away at them. And yeah, okay, I see how that works.
I know as a community organizer for many years, one of the basic rules you tell people is, don't do anything your enemy expects. Always act outside their experience. And whatever you do, make it fun, because your people have to have fun doing it. That's how we keep our spirits up. And these people are so easy to ridicule and to make look ridiculous that, I mean, it's just the important thing is to have imagination and what we do that's going to, hit where they're weak and make them look silly, which they already are. Yeah.
I reckon that I've got the impression in the last few years that they are on the run a little bit. I think they feel like their time's coming to an end. That's just my instinctive opinion on like the royal family, the Vatican, even some of the, leaders around the world. I think that there's a sense of panic. That's why we're having these control measures coming in.
Everything you do has an impact. Everything you do has an impact, John, no matter how small. Yeah. And Canada was an even better example. I mean, we made Canada and its churches address something they didn't want. 24 of us made that happen. Not by standing outside waving placards, because protests are asking for something, right? We created our own justice. We started taking over churches. And when we released that documentary film Unrepentant, a member of parliament saw it, stood up in parliament and said, when are these children going to get a proper burial? That triggered the whole thing. So, a bullet at the right spot at the right time, you got to think like a sniper does, right?
Yeah, right. No, and it's right what you say about the protests, because it's just like a way to relieve some anger, and then you just go back home and nothing's changed. And it's like you're begging for something, you're pleading for something. I think the key is just to not comply, comply and build your own paradigms, to build your own communities and systems and get people on board with those systems. Like the whole pantomime show of left or right, red or blue, Trump or Biden, like Labour versus Conservative. It's just a pantomime, isn't it? It's like Punch and Judy, and there's like the puppeteer and you've got Punch and Judy and everyone's going, it's behind you. It's just, and then people get suckered into it and you want to vote for one of them, it's just true.
Especially in England or Canada, where every politician and judge takes an oath of allegiance to one guy sitting on an imaginary throne, not to the people, not to a constitution. So the people you elect are not accountable to you. So we have to, that's why we encourage people, don't vote in the elections, set up your own local assembly and start passing your own laws. That's true democracy. Democracy, I love this beautiful quote from Thomas Paine, right? He said, democracy does not consist of choosing your masters. It means not having any. You don't choose your masters. You just don't have any. You're your own.
Yeah, exactly.
How
would you do that then? How would you set up your own? So you're saying if you set up your own assembly, you mean a group of people, right, in your community, and then you mean you can actually start to pass your own laws just from how many people do you need to do that?
12. I'll send you all of this stuff. It's actually online at republicofcanada.org, all our documents and everything, including how to set up cell groups and assemblies. But you get a charter, and I'll send you this, and it says, we, the undersigned, are establishing our own lawful court and assembly to pass laws and protect our community. And once those laws are valid, in our tradition, going back even past Magna Carta, people have the right to self-determination, right? And so under natural law, and so that's what you do, and you start passing them. And the enforcement, that's the challenging part, because then you have to start going up against the system. But you can start, like in our republic, we've recruited police, even members of the military, a few of them, take out citizenship, say, no, I don't have allegiance to Charlie anymore. It's to the people, to the Constitution of the Republic. That's a bona fide authority. The Crown, as we said, is de facto, not de jure in the history, right?
So does that mean that when you do that, you create your own republic? That's what you're starting to create, your own jurisdiction. You're creating your own, like you've got your own land, and then you've got your own laws of that land that are connected to natural law of the land, and then you can exempt from maritime law, whatever we're in now, right? Like corporate law.
Right. That's how it works. You get the process of below from people forming their own assemblies, but then you have an overarching separate jurisdiction called the Republic. And it says that on our citizenship cards. We renounce all allegiance, real or implied, to the Crown and the Government of Canada and its laws, and we take it to the Republic, and we're under its national jurisdiction. Every time I've showed my citizenship card to a cop, they back off because they know, I'm just on your jurisdiction. I'm like a member of another country. You don't have authority over me, right? So it works that way in practice.
I'm guessing you wouldn't. I guess you don't drive with a driving license then, like a number plate. Sorry.
Well, here's the thing. It's the movie The Matrix, where you're going in and out of the imaginary system. That's the way we are. Like people say, well, if I become a citizen of the Republic, do I lose my pension? I say no, because the system relates to you through the capitalized letters. You're a corporate fiction. They don't know me. They only know the corporate fiction, Kevin Annett, right? So you can hold on to that fiction to, whatever, get health benefits or, put on a false front when you drive saying, oh yeah, I'm that corporate fiction. You don't want to take on the system as an individual. That's what they want. They want you to say, fuck you, I'm not paying my taxes, right? I'm an autonomous person. You never do that as a person, because then they'll nail you and hold you up as an example and scare everybody, right? You pass a law as a community saying we are separate, and then, okay, arrest our whole assembly. Let's see you try, right? Because we've got friends all over the place, right? And so you got to think strategically. We're not out. It's not an ego trip saying, "Look I'm sovereign." It's how do we create another pole of attraction to draw the energy out of the system into our new one, right?
So you can play both, public and private. You could say matrix and natural, and you can actually use your matrix. What was his name in the Matrix? John Anderson, was that his name? You can use that identity to benefit you, like you say, health, pensions, all that kind of stuff. But then you can go back to use your Neo avatar, law of the land, whenever you like.
The thing is, we form the assembly as natural flesh and blood men and women, just like we called Ratzinger into the court as a flesh and blood man. We relate in real life as human beings, right? But in their world, okay, fine. Here, look at the driver's license. You're not talking to me. You're talking to the corporate fiction. Go ahead, take a look at them. Fine, if you want to play that game. and that you maneuver around that danger of being arrested for not having a driver's license, whatever. But the point is, think strategically the way you are in battle all the time. You have to think. A soldier thinks differently than a civilian, and we're not in peacetime anymore.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's sure. No, that's really, really interesting. And because I've had other guests on, like Pete Stone, Peter Wilson, talking about how Carly Spell talking about how to come out of the system, discharge your debt. Just go from maritime law to common law. So this is really, I should connect all you guys in actually at some point.
Yeah, well,
it's really, really.
Here's the thing, John. I never dispute other people in the criminal movement. It's like touching the elephant. We're all coming to this from different angles, and there's too much division and infighting already. We have to all pool our knowledge, right? And at the same time, not work in their system, because it just feeds our energy, feeds off our energy, right? We got to be creating something independent and autonomous, and also not thinking individually. It's not a matter if I fill out paperwork. What about my neighbor? You're still caught in the system de facto, unless all of you are beginning to pull out, right?
Yeah. I mean, how amazing would that be in like a few years, where we just all start to slowly pull out of the corporate system and go back to the land and homeschool, and
it's already started.
I mean, that's just, yeah, it has already started. Yeah.
But I mean, to give you an example, 2 years ago I was in Ontario speaking to a group of farmers there, and they already had their own food sharing network. They already had their own schooling network, and I said, okay, good, but you're still de facto under Crown authority. You've got to also be part of the Republic, so it can give you that other nationhood. And some of them disagreed, some agreed. The point is, you learn from experience in this, right? And they're going to eventually bash up against the system and realize, I guess you can only go so far, especially since their system is crumbling as we speak, right?
Yeah, toxic. It's absolutely toxic system. And we've actually got Mark, for anyone watching here, we've got Mark Byford hopefully joining us. He should be coming pretty soon. Farmer, he's head of the Farmers Alliance, and really working on the ground to make sure that we don't lose our food produce and it gets ripped out the hands of the farmers, which is what's happening. Because as soon as the food goes, that's it. What's the expression now? If you want to control the people, you control the food. Yep. So the farmers are like the most important people, I would say, one of the most important people, workers in our country, because if they lose control, then that's it. Then the food is just all GMO'd, graphene oxided, like whatever it is they want to put in it, synthetic crap that's going to make you sick, dependent on pharmaceuticals. And here he is. Here's the man in action. Let me bring him on. Great time in there. All right, so Mark,
how are we doing, John?
Hey,
how are we doing? I was just picking you up there. I was just giving you a great intro, and then you came, so it was fantastic timing.
Yes.
So let me introduce you two, okay? Because I've already kind of introduced you, Mark, to Kevin, but Kevin, would you like to just sort of mention a little bit what we've just been talking about here, what you've been able to do, and move into the common law and the republics, and how it ties in maybe to what Mark's doing with the farming?
Well, we're part of a whole global movement to pull out the whole corporate system, and it starts with the land. It starts with the land base and people's natural identity as being on the land. And we've had some success, limited in Canada. About 80% of the members of our republic that's broken free of the crown, about 80% of them are farmers or living in small towns. We find people in the cities are very confused and very divided and infighting. And where you get back to your roots and sources on the land. And, so I kind of, in a nutshell, I think we've got this natural alliance forming, and it's good to be in touch.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Because I was thinking, Mark, what we need to do is, at some point is, it's not just the food. If we can actually claim back some sovereignty, with, in terms of the law and, what we're allowed to do, then then we bring in other things, like the homeschooling, take the kids out of these, brainwashing camps and everything else.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I want to create this.
Go on, sorry, John. I was just going to say, I had a conversation the other day with Catherine McBean from the PFFA, the People's Food and Farming Alliance, and Catherine is stepping sideways at present to work on exactly that, because we were both having the conversation, and I'm very open-minded about all the BS what's going on around the world, and one of the big things is farming's what my passion is, but my passion's been pulled to bits by bureaucratic billionaires who think they know better than we do. And Catherine and I were talking, and one of the things we're both looking at now is how we now go to the next level and bring in all these other people. So people that are looking at everything from homeschooling to legal sovereignty of themselves and to claiming back the land and all of this. The thing is, guys, it all fits together. We both know, we all know that all three of us on here, we know that all three of those things have to go together. So you've got to get the kids out of mainstream school because they've just been taught complete absolute trash. I've got a 9-year-old who questions the system, and oh man, is he victimized by the teachers because of it? Oh, he's fantastic. But he questions everything. He made it quite clear to them the other day that there was no way that man had built the pyramids because he'd been there and seen it and his teachers hadn't, so he must know more than they did. It's brilliant. So
I love it. I love it.
We've got the food, we've got the weather, we've got common law, we've got sovereignty in ourselves and sovereignty of the land. All of these things need to come together, and I think there's thousands of these little groups worldwide. Once they unite, the likes of the HWO and the all the other acronym divvy billionaire people who want to control the planet, they're all had it. The minute we unite, that's when their problems start. We've been very all over the shop at present, and that's one of the issues which we're having. And the minute we step past that point and unite, they're done. And the sooner we get to that, the better.
Yeah.
Great.
Amen. Hey, Kevin, what do you like? How do you like that? How do you like the sound of that?
Beautiful, man. makes me want to get on a plane right now. Well, one thing, Mark, is one of the first things we try to do when, like in a community, when we're working with people, say, okay, what are the laws you'd like in your community? Form an assembly, get 12 people or more together, get a charter, say we are our own local assembly and court. We're going to take back the law and governance into ourselves and start passing the law. And then you're not looking to anybody. You're not looking to some bloody MP or whoever. You've created your own nation there, and then we have to just link up all those efforts all over. So that's what a lot of what we do. We try to train people how to do that in their own community, because that's where it starts.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've been looking at this year. I've got a friend Andy who's very up on the common law side of things and being in your own sovereignty as a whole, and he's been teaching me a lot of that this year, and it's mind-blowing to think that we've come from having that and understanding that as being the everyday for every person to where we are now under this complete maritime commercial law that only benefits those in power.
Yep.
And it's just scary. One thing I did want to say, go on, Kevin,
ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
One thing I was going to say, John, I just wanted to congratulate you publicly about reaching 10,000 because on your YouTube account. And the reason I say this is important is because for those who study history will know that Boudica or Boadicea, however you pronounce the Iceni queen, she had 10,000 princess warriors when she defeated 60,000 Romans. She lost 2,500 soldiers against the 60,000 the Romans lost. So it's not about the numbers, it's about the knowledge and the power. And I think you need to understand, John, what you've started, and also bringing people together like this is much more powerful than they'll ever understand.
Oh, bless you, man. Bless you. Yeah, I want to be a part of this kind of effort to unite all these powerful people that are trying to do good things. Because, like you said, Mark, it's a bit all over the shop, hasn't it been the last year? There's a lot of good people doing lots of things all over, but it's a little bit too atomized. It's a bit sporadic. It's fragmented. But we need to pull all those fragments together like we're doing here. You know, bring the common law with the farming, with the homeschooling, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then we can start to kind of build it out a little bit more and flesh it out and actually trial it out, give it a go, bring some people in and to try it, you know, and because I think it's easy to get suckered into the just talking about problems. And I do that as well, like, you know, identifying all the problems, but I want to shift it into real solutions now.
Well, and
real new solutions.
People are starved for a vision of something different, right? And we got to provide that, but you provide it in practice by creating something different, and, you know, lead by example. And, you know, one of the things we found when you form assemblies, people are all over. There are different levels of awareness and commitment. And if you throw them all in a room together, it's like herding cats. It gets chaos. So you got to form little working groups. Okay, we're going to work on issues of land here. Get the parents together, work on homeschooling. Form all these little groups, and then come together every week or two in an assembly and share it all. But to coordinate that, you need strong leadership, and that's why you find a few people like us who are in for the long haul. And you got to be the leadership and not be afraid to lead, because but that's in a cooperative way to raise up more people so we can all be leaders, right?
Sure. It's interesting. I started a CIC with a friend a year ago, and we've kind of been bobbing along, getting all the legalities sorted out. And one of the things we're going to start doing within the next few weeks is we've now completing on the website and different things. And that's going to be for people to be able to fund setting up independent food. So one of the things we wanted to do was, for instance, with farming, is lots of people would like to get into farming, but can't find a piece of land or can't find the finances to do it. So the PFFA is setting up a map where people in the UK will be able to go, at the UK at the moment, I will say, people will be able to say, I'm looking for a piece of land, and a farmer can say, I've got a piece of land. And what we'll be able to do is they'll be able to find each other on there. Then what we'll be able to do is to fund that project. So that starts within the next couple of weeks to start getting funding for that. And there's so many of these things I've seen and witnessed coming together. And I kind of think that it's taken people a little bit of time to get the traction moving. And now that time, I think in the next 12 months, we know geopolitically, we're going to see some horrendous turmoil. However, the good side of that is what we're going to achieve inside the next 12 months, bringing everyone together. And that's where the power of all this is.
Have you thought about maybe doing a kind of a national conference of people on this theme, right? People who are working on this, try to unite.
Say that again, sorry, Kevin. Did you hear that? All right, Mark, because I thought Kevin cut out for me there a little bit. Yeah, break up a little bit. Yeah, say it one more time. Sorry.
Holding a national event doesn't have to be a conference. It could be a big, huge picnic or something. But, you know, do it a big celebration where you get music and food and families coming together somewhere on the land. That'd be really inspiring to people, I think. Put out the vision that way.
Well, it's funny. I'm talking at two over the August bank holiday. One down in Wales and one up in Lancashire. Exactly that. They're going to be
and
brilliant.
Also, I'm putting on a pure blood party as well with Carly, hopefully this year. So
I'll definitely come to that.
Yeah, so we're actually looking for events or like existing festivals that are going on where we can just take up a marquee or something. You know, it's going to be called pop-up pure blood parties, just as a little bit of a fingers up to all the big pharma, you know, like the tyrants that were like trying to force us to lose our bodily autonomy. So it's just a bit of fun, but that could be an idea because we're going to get lots of awake people to come along to that. And what Kevin, you reckon you kind of pitched the idea there? Is that what you're saying? You could pitch it and say, look, you start your own assemblies in your own towns.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like
right.
If you start 100 brush fires, it's hard for them to put them all out. You don't want one big central organization. It can be wiped out quick. We've had that experience a lot. So we want to start a lot of brush fires, but then unite it with a vision. Like, you know what helps? Early on, we got a flag for a republic, right? It was 3 stars, the English, the French, the native nations that formed the country. And the symbol of something different. So agree on an image or a symbol that sums up your vision and start flying it. Start flying the flag, right? That it does unite people.
Yeah, no, I can understand that.
Mm.
I think we should. We should have a flag with a Jolly Roger on it.
Even better.
It should be something a little bit fun, shouldn't it?
Vendetta mask.
Yeah. Although to be fair, they did try the Vendetta mask for the Occupy. What was it? The Occupy movement, wasn't it?
Oh well.
Yeah.
The thing about
that kind of just got splintered, didn't it? That kind of
Guy Fawkes was a Vatican agent. He went in to try to blow up Parliament because they didn't want the King James Bible produced. You know, he was sent from Rome to blow up Parliament. So I said, he's not the best guy to use as our symbol. Let's use Boudica or somebody, right? Somebody who was a real rebel, you know, who wanted to bring down the system.
Absolutely.
Who is? Yeah, I'm not sure who is the rebel at the moment. I can't really think of a good one. But yeah, we'll find. If any suggestions for flags or people on the flags in the comments, let us know. Thanks for all your comments coming in, by the way. I'm just going to go through some of them here. There's one here. It says, "Hi, Kevin. Your psychic friend who died, was she the same lady who visited the area where the kids disappeared?"
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Well, you know, I went to her with some material. This was the oldest Indian school set up in Canada by the Church of England in the 1830s in Brantford, Ontario. I took a piece of brick and gave it to her, and she dropped it. She said, "I can't touch that. I've got all these horrible images of children being slaughtered," right? And she got all these images. She led us to sites where there were mass graves of children. They took her out, but because she had that vision, right? But I mean, the proof's all there. It's like anything in the world, you know. It's not a matter of evidence. It's a matter of what do you do with the evidence, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Mark, do you want to just mention to Kevin, sort of just summarize the stuff that's happened with the farming, you know, like in just kind of in a minute or two, just to give him an idea, you know, like the flower fields and the because I don't think Kevin knows exactly the details of that.
Yeah, so briefly. So we've got really four major things going on which are pulling down the ability for the British farmers to exist. And this is all instigated by the WEF. So we have one thing which is called SSI, which is Sites of Scientific Interest. So if they find, let's say, a grass snake on a field, they could say that's an SSI site, and then they can cordon off 500 miles of land without you being able to do anything about it. It's down to them how big they make the area. And then if your farm sits within that area, you cannot farm it. Simple as. If it's under SSI, you're just paid not to farm. They then brought out another thing called set aside, and there's lots of different schemes sit within this, but this is where they pay farmers not to grow food. They pay them to grow pretty flowers, and then they're subsidised to do that. And the idea is that it's good for the wildlife, and good for net zero because it sucks up carbon that we need. Then you've also got things like obviously weather manipulation going on. We've got, I've seen so much, Kevin, this year. It's been bonkers. The best one I think we've got is the get out of not get out of jail card like there is in Monopoly. This is the get out of farming card. So if you're a farmer who wants to retire and you've got no pension, they'll pay you I think it's sitting at £120,000 at the minute to stop farming. You can sell your farm to them for really good above market money, and that's bought up by the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard and so forth, Bill Gates, whoever it might be, and you get £120,000 to stop farming on the condition you can't go to be a consultant and you can't go back into farming with the money you get. So, and then we've got all the worst one of the lot, and I have to say this is because of net zero, we are losing, I think I'm right in saying 25,000 acres across the UK this year are going down to solar panels, epoxy wind turbines, what don't produce any electricity. it's just a shit show, really. We're about to lose in the next year. We lose 2/3 of our agricultural land. All the grazing land that sat with inside what was owned by the Crown, so all the national parks and things, all the farmers are now being told they can't be on there. So they've all got to take their grazing away. You've also got things like a lot of farmers are tenant farmers. So on these big family estates, what would be originally owned by the monarch, and they're now owned by big families. If they've got 10,000 acres, they may possibly have 100 tenant farmers on there. Well, it's now more profitable for the farmer to be paid set aside, or the landowner set aside, than it is to allow the farmer to grow a crop on there and get a rent. So all the tenant farmers across the UK are being given notice to leave. So I say, we lose in the next 12 months, we will lose 2/3 of our farming land. And that's going to put us in a really vulnerable position. Scary.
So, Mark, when people are being forced off their land, have they been, is there any resistance on the ground? Are people just refusing to go? Or...
Yeah. We've had all that. We've had mass demonstrations and No Farmers, No Food campaign working in the background to work on the, back on the land and to try to get farmers to continue on the land they're on. It's just futile. I spoke to a friend today who's been into court today to represent somebody, and it's just a circus. Yep. What they control. They've got all the lions, they've got all the clowns, and they do what they want. It's their show, and the only way to not take part is don't turn up at the circus. And I think that is what this show's about, isn't it?
Right, exactly.
Take yourself off to a different place, and that's where we need to get to really fast.
Yeah,
that's right. Backs are to the wall.
So what are the solutions here then? How can we start creating some resistance here and creating some new solutions based on everything we know here?
I think from my side, that's down to three things. One, as Kevin rightly said, this is about bringing everybody together, uniting everybody. This is about people understanding the value of common law and standing in their sovereignty. I mean, I've had it over the last year where I've stood up against, our local constabulary on 3 different occasions. And on each occasion, because I've stood my ground, they've backed down. And I think that just goes to show that lesser people would have gone, oh, my God, send me a fine, please do, where I'm just like quite blasé and just go, you do what you want. I ain't even going to open a post, so it won't make no difference to my life. And I think that, one, we have to come together. We have to understand how we all work individually coming together as well, because that's, like Kevin rightly said, we can't have one big organisation. We can't have effectively form our own government, because that can be shut down really easily. You need so much resistance going on. They can't put the fire out. This was what the French did in the Second World War. They didn't need to win the war. They just caused the Germans so much trouble. They didn't know what to do with themselves. That's where we need to be. All of these little independent councils that have set up across the UK, all of these farmers what want to stand up, all of the schools, the parents that don't want the kids in schools, all the people who want food independence, all the people who want legal sovereignty, all need to get their shit sorted out and get on the same page. And like Kevin said, we need something that unites us, like a flag that people are quite prepared to say, this is my beliefs, this is what I'm about, and this is what I'm going to do. And take away the power of the government saying, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Because I don't know about you, but I lost interest in that a long time ago. So what we now need to do is get those people to understand what the next step is. 1, we need to get them united. 2, they need to understand their own sovereignty. And then 3, how do we deliver this? How do we all step out of the system until the system crashes?
Right. That you just said it all in a nutshell, man. That's great.
Doesn't matter which side of the pond you are. We're all on the same page.
One thing we could do, we do these Zoom calls with people in 9 or 10 different countries who are going through all the similar stuff. Why don't we organize a call, kind of an online little mini workshop soon about how to take that first step? and then we can bring in all our different experiences and kind of hash it out and start projects that are going to, you know, 'cause you learn as you do in this stuff, right? And we need to share all that as it's happening. So why don't we try to organize that soon, that kind of online workshop.
I mean, I'm sure Kevin and John, you've both seen this. One of the biggest problems in the, whether you call it the conspiracy theory side or the truth speakers, whatever you want to call everybody, one of the big problems is there's a lot of egos out there that need to be put to bed. And that's one of the biggest issues I see. You know, just put it out of the way, put it to bed, and let's all sit down around a table. This is, you know, this is more King Arthur as far as I'm concerned. Right. Arthur had a round table for a reason. There was no one in charge of the damn thing. The democracy took care of itself, you know. So I think that's where we need to be. Very quick.
Good name for a group.
But I think that has to start there, though, Kevin. You're right. It has to start off with like a group, like workshop, and then focusing on where people's strengths are, and then how they can connect to their immediate groups of people, and then it kind of, and we give them a bit of a template. We draw up a template for them, how to start the assembly. You know, how to deputize a sheriff, not, you know, like police or something. You know, how to and then it connects into the farms. Then we've got to connect in the you know, sustainable food networks and all that, Mark, as well, right? You know, like going
absolutely.
So we cut the supply and demand for like the supermarkets, and we create a direct link to the farms, and we get a delivery service from the farms. That's how we break away the power, right, from the
absolutely
from those giants.
It's about demonetizing them.
So you got you need the vision, you need the program, and you need the organization. And think in terms of those three all the time, because they're all important, right?
Absolutely. I know that Catherine McBean has been working on a project for several years now in the background, which is about to come, and that's exactly what this is about, I will say. And it's a project called All Hands on Deck, and it's about bringing all the people that understand all this together under one roof, collectively, or together but independently, bringing them all together so someone centrally could control this, where you could say someone has an issue. Let's say someone's got bailiffs at the door and they need 50 people to turn up and resolve that issue. You know, they've got DEFRA turning up at the farm gate to slaughter the cows because they've got bird flu. Bird flu. And love bird flu.
Love me a bird flu.
Can't beat it, but seriously. So the idea being that someone centrally, a group, you know, whilst they might be all over the world, might be very collective to bring people together to be able to say, we know someone who can do that. We can bring 50 people to your farm gate straight away. We can bring 50 people to your house because the mortgage company are doing everything illegally, whatever it might be. And I think that's where the power in this sits. Once people within the truth movement as a whole are fairly awake over the whole spectrum. So they're quite diverse to be able to jump into one thing or another. If you need them to talk about, you know, legality, if you need them to be able to talk about sovereignty, whether that sovereignty is about food, law, water, whatever it might be, they have enough understanding, the majority of people now, on all of those subjects. You know, I could probably name 200 people that I know as much as me about all this stuff. And that's, you know, I'm with Richard Vobes on Monday evening. Richard and I are doing a show on Monday evening down in Suffolk. Right. And I think it's normally about 150 people come to those. And what excites me about that is they're all on our page. We haven't got to convince anybody to come. We say we're going to do it, and they all turn up because they want to hear what we're about. And that's the power in what you've got on your page, John, with 10,000 people now. You've got 10,000 people who want to hear what you're about. Now, as you start to unite all these things together, and that's 10,000 people potentially you can tell about that. You know, from my side, I've got 25,000 people over social media that I can tell about it. You know, and that's where the strength in this, I think they've underestimated the power of the internet when they gave us it.
Yeah.
So
I think it probably was meant to be a net, you know, an internet to catch us all and to understand about us and our patterns and everything else. But it sort of backfired a little bit, I think, anyway.
Mark,
And I think it's getting the truth out there
I agree.
exponentially.
and Mark, you said something
Yeah.
really important about when people are being attacked. One of the first things when we form assemblies, one of the first things we set up, we call it an urgent action network. So, or urgent response. So let's say the cops come to somebody's door. There's 5 people who've agreed. You get a call, bang, they're there at the door to protect them, or to
Yep.
document it with the camera, right? We need to be able to defend ourselves from the inevitable attacks that are coming. And and if we're going to build anything, we've got to defend our people. So those self-defense groups right away, we need to have it on immediately organized.
Yeah.
And also, the best defense is getting people to take initiative themselves. Don't wait for leaders. Do it yourself. Learn to activate people, because then the enemy can't control us. If we've got 10,000 people all doing their own thing, they can't stop it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen this with different things this year. The other day there was a fraudulent claim against someone's mortgage, and the bailiffs were turned up, and they'd given a date of when they were coming, and this was down in Kent somewhere, and it went round on all the Telegram and WhatsApp groups, and they had I think there was about 70 or 80 people turned up to stop them taking the house back. That's people power.
Right.
And once people realise they've got that strength, the bailiffs weren't there about 20 minutes. They left. They were out the door. They were like, this isn't going to happen today.
Right.
And it might
Exactly.
be it happens on another day, but what it shows everybody is that solidarity brings them together to stop that happening on that day. If they did that every day, day in, day out, then bailiffs would not stop in their job, because they'd soon be out of a job if they didn't get results.
That's exactly right. And, one experience like that is better than 1,000, talk shops. One experience teaches you more about what you're dealing with than, talk in the abstract, right?
Yeah. And I think one of the things I've seen this year, Kevin, is the fact that a lot of this paperwork, what they produce to scare you, that's exactly what it's for. It is to scare you into submission. And when you actually look into the legal sovereignty of that paperwork, it isn't worth the paper it's written on. It isn't actually signed by a judge. It's signed by some nebulous director of a limited company somewhere, what isn't in court at all. It's just a company in Northampton that signs all these things. And then it's not in real ink. There's so many of these things where you start to understand that. I mean, I was given one the other night, and my name was in a box. And I showed it to a friend, and he said, "Oh, you can chuck that away." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Your name and address is in a box. The box insinuates that you're dead. That's the idea of the box. So they're contacting a dead entity. You have no right to reply." He said, "So the minute you don't reply, you're in control of it." He said, "Because it's in a box. Don't reply to it. They expect you to be dead anyway." And I was like, that suits me.
Yeah. I mean, Mark, Carly. I'm going to connect you in with Carly Spell, but she's created a whole platform called Dark Matters, and she's pulling in all the various ambassadors and leaders who are in different fields, And I definitely think you two should join in with her. You should link in with her, because she's built an entire platform, and she's, so she can put remedies for people within there. And yeah,
I'm doing a show with Carly. I think the 2nd of August. I think.
Okay, great. Yeah, and Kevin, you should as well. Yeah,
she contacted me via yourself. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. It's like all of these things. All of the contacts we need for this are out there.
Yeah.
In mass, absolutely en masse.
Yeah.
What we need to do is unite, bring everyone together. There might be 50 people countrywide that know about, farming like I talk about farming like. You've only got to get someone like Gareth Wynne Jones. The guy's a bloody legend as far as I'm concerned. He's got 2.25 million followers on YouTube. These are the once you get to those kind of numbers, then you start getting into a mass amount of people. Yeah. And that's when the power comes together, and that's the bit what's going to scare the socks off of those lot.
Something's got to change. We've got to start something, because we're not going to change it from the top down. It has to be a bottom-up, grassroots change. And we need to I think we all need to get our act together a little bit. We need to start getting organized and, creating these little lobbies, these assemblies, these groups of people to actually start creating change immediately, like those websites, the food networks. You know, we need to start doing more of that, I think.
So why don't we plan to do that online workshop soon? In the meantime, I can send you copies of the stuff we've produced for assemblies and courts and all that, if it'll help.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So what?
Hey, Mark,
what would
send
be?
me your email.
Let's come up. Oh yeah, you two should private message and give your email if you like. I guess if you want to put that in the chat.
I can't get on for some reason. It's not letting me connect to the chat.
I can't either. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
that's far beyond me.
Oh, is it really?
I'll tell you what, John. I'll send mine to you. You send it on to Kevin.
Yeah, I'll send it over. Yeah. I think we should definitely
brought everyone together.
No, I know. Yeah, you do it through me, no problem. It's about time. It's about time. Yeah. And I think coming up with an action plan, just get us all on a call and get us organized on the call. Where can we harness our own strengths? What can we do in our local areas and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, will be pretty powerful. Yeah, I wonder if anyone else, Mark.
I've gone out this year and done several speeches about the farming side, and filled rooms without a lot of problem. 100, 150 people a time, and all of those people. And I've got to tell you, one of the funniest things was I had a Green councillor who turned up at one of the meetings, and I was talking about net zero, and he wanted to argue with me, and I didn't even have a conversation with him because 150 other people in the room all had my back. It was brilliant. So, and I think that's where the strength of this lies. Once people start to realise, hang on a minute, we control this situation. I don't know how many police officers there is in a town, but in the town I live in, perhaps there may be 30, perhaps 40. We live in a population of 60,000 people. At this point, they have the control because the masses are asleep. The problem comes when the masses are awake. And that's when we need peaceful. I have to say this. It needs to be peaceful. It needs to be peaceful protest. I'm not in for carnage on the streets in any way, shape or form.
No, I'm not.
But what I do think is that we've got to stand up against this, and our time to resolve this is running out fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because that's another thing they do is like when they see a movement growing, they'll send in the agent provocateurs and they'll splinter it. They'll smear it, and then in the media it just looks as though like they'll just get a load of yobbo skinheads and holding Stella Artois cans, and then they'll just go, look at all these far right Nazis turning up, So you've got to be very careful.
In the No Farmers, No Food campaign.
Yeah,
I saw that happen without any doubt at all. That's what happened. Sorry, Kevin.
The FBI call it bad jacketing. They target the best people and they start rumors about them. Black ops, smear campaigns, going after you. Don't trust this guy. We've had 4 different organizations taken out that way, destroyed from the inside out, because people don't realize what's happening, right? So you got to never rumor monger about anybody, never gossip about anybody, just rise up.
By the way, sorry, I just wanted to invite in Carly here. Carly's very important. She's also another important part of this because Carly's got her channel called Dark Matters. It's a whole platform where she's pulling in the likes of Kevin and Mark and all these people that can do remedies for people. And I'm just, here you are, Carly. Hey.
Hey, can you hear me okay? Hi.
Yeah, perfectly well. Nice and loud and clear. Yeah.
I'm just doing an impromptu hello. That's all. I'm not in my studio. I'm lounging, so do forgive my.
No, that's all right.
Me as well.
Messaged me.
But
I was like, "You're trying to come on." I went, "Okay."
No, because we're trying to. This is the dream team we've got here. Okay, because basically what we want to do is we want to start creating changes now. We want to start to really get people to rally behind the farmers. Get the food back in control of the farmers and the people again. Kevin works with creating republics and getting outside the system. So you two should definitely have a chat. But Kevin was saying, to start this, to create a change here, is to start your own assemblies. You only need 12 people, and then you can start to, that's the start of it, Kevin. Is that, have I said that right? And then you can start to create your own jurisdiction that way. That's the Magna Carta, is it?
Well, that helps. Yeah. It's, but you know, we're speaking from Canadian experience, and it's different in every situation. But the general idea is people are self-governing, and they can establish their own laws and their own jurisdiction, which you need to do to get out of a criminal system like we're in now, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the key word, isn't it? It's like I say, it's jurisdiction, and we're in theirs when they lower our status to persons. It's as simple as that. And we only gave or delegated our power to these representatives. It was delegated. We never, the power is still reserved by the people. It certainly is over here, but obviously that's why then they have to lower our status to the persons, to the birth certificate, etc. So it's just about remembering that we do have a constitution and all are equal under the law, and to stop operating in their jurisdiction. It's like with what's going on with the farmers. I mean, how ridiculous is it going to get? Like when we're eating the bugs and we'll own nothing and we'll be happy, etc. I mean, how far does it have to go? Do you know what I mean? So really, it's just about living men and women. Just, we've always had the power. The power is reserved by the people, for the people, we the people. Like I say, we only ever delegated it to representatives in business of state, and that's what's been forgotten. So again, we all know about the straw man now and the legal fiction. Living men and women don't need to ask permission to do things from these people. They are well, alleged elective, representatives, but we know that we don't even vote them in anymore. That's why it's called the opinion polls. It's people's opinion. It's not going to change anything by the slaves demanding things that, we don't like this. It's not about that, which is why we're kind of working on the void orders, things like that, because all these orders coming from these administrative courts, judges aren't on the rolls, they're not on the bonds, they're just doing corporate affirmations. And this is the kind of power that we need to kind of, like I say, not give back to the people. We've always had it, but just create that awareness and create that tip to remember. We're like the species with amnesia. We've just forgotten who and what we are like, and that's what it's about. It's changing people's mindsets and trying to just get that to tip over en masse. And that's what we kind of do. We all kind of doing it. It's like asking for planning permission. Well, no, we don't. We created government, not the other way around. And he who creates owns. We own you. You do as we tell you. And obviously that lowering the status, now they think they can come and tell us. And it's gone on for thousands of years, this kind of psychopathy, but without kind of going there. So yeah, it's just constant expose and taking it back and giving it back to the people, where it always was anyway. But no mean feet, guys,
No, I think, Ali, what you're doing, I'm like always waxing lyrical about Dark Matters, because I think you've got such a great platform where you're pulling in, like, it's like pulling in all the X-Men. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I think
around the world.
If I can do anything, and maybe that's my feminine energy, I'm a bit of a networker. I'm just a bit of I've got a big gob and I've got a good network, and that's what it's about, because everyone's plays the role, don't they? And I just play mine, and part of that I think is just networking and connecting people in. It's like you've got Pete Stone from the Sovereign Project. He's doing some brilliant stuff, and then you've got the stuff that we're doing with the last blob, Blue Boar of England, with the constitutional stuff. But it all plays its role. It's all powerful stuff, and it's like everyone seems to have a little piece of the puzzle. Like Andy Truman from the Goodism, he does all the quantum grammar, and actually I should connect Andy with Mark. I was going to chat with you about this anyway when we have our chat on the 2nd. But he's doing some great work with farmers on the ground, putting stuff into trust, showing them that they don't have to ask permission to do, or they don't have to do that. But again, it is standing your ground, a lot of it, but having the right words in the right order at the right time, as I say, in law. And we've got to get back to lawful and not legal.
Absolutely.
And just keep all just connecting in with each other. So if I can facilitate that in any way, then that's what the platform's hopefully about, and we can just keep empowering people. But also, like I say, if they're going to write to you and summons you and give you all this bull crap, then we just void the orders and we just say no. Same with the council tax, taking that. The idea is that we will start to do to sue them. these police enforcement agencies, it's got to have some enforcement from us, because it's malfeasance, misfeasance, non-feasance, fraud, theft, connivance of the court, you name it. At the top end, it's treason, and we still hang people from yardarms for treason in this country, and that's what's happening. And I don't mince my words, because that's what they're doing, and it's ruining lives, it's killing people, and it's just, it's game up, as I say. In my
I'm
land.
with you.
I had to get me horse. Where's my horse? Where's my sword? I'm a bit like, doing drama queen.
Yeah, I'm a grab your pitchfork kind of guy.
Oh.
Mark, what are you saying?
I said I'm a kind of a grab your pitchfork kind of guy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see that. But we were just talking about, how to really get this going, where, do we set up assemblies? Do we, how do we bring people together to actually start exempting, getting out of the system a little? Kevin, what do you say to all that?
In a way, it doesn't really matter what you do. The important thing is to do something and see what happens. I think that was actually one of the quotes of Napoleon. Somebody asked him how he prepared for battle, and he said, "I never prepare. I do something, and then I see what happens." And then, because life is fluid, you got to respond. You got to do all this stuff in response. And so I think it doesn't matter what you're doing so much as draw the lessons from it and start making connections. So, and like Mark was saying, we want to start a lot of these different actions all over so they can't put it out, right? So at the same time, let's coordinate. Let's have something online where we can have a plan about vision, program, organization, right?
I think one of the things I have seen this last year is people who have gone into court, and Gailey may well know more about this, but people have gone into court and challenged things. It might be that they know so much and they get so far, then they get shut down. But then somebody else might take that same knowledge and get a little bit further before they get shut down, and then someone else takes it and goes a little bit further. And eventually you end up with a procedure, what if you go through these steps, they back down from, and they know it as well. And it's the minute we've got that in place, game over. In every court case, take out serious things, let's say like murder or something, something dangerous. But, most of this BS, what's going on for stuff like, you haven't paid your council tax, or you got a speeding fine, or just all this nonsense like you haven't paid your TV license, you got a summons. You mean you want me to attend? No, thank you. I ain't coming. But there's going to be, we're going to end up with a tick sheet of how to get through these court cases, how to get rid of these bailiffs at the door, how to achieve this. And the minute you've got that, they're done. They're out of the water. So every time I see somebody change these, Andy, you're talking about.
Kaylee.
Mark, you just cut out there, mate. Mark.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, yeah,
I think what Mark's saying is bang on. I think it's and what Kevin's saying, it's just about doing something, isn't it? And that's what's important. And the thing is, there is kind of a script with these judges. It's not kind of easy in that sense, but like the guy that I'm working with, they're going in and enforcing the void orders, because this is the thing. It is the paperwork, but it's also about having the teeth to go in there and enforce what we're saying. Because, like I say, if you're going to say first off to that judge, are you on your oath? I mean, you're walking into that courtroom, and part of their job is to make you feel that lower status, to get you in the dock, to do all that, so that you kind of go, you will sit, so it's intimidating, but it's like as and I don't know whether you want me to say his name, but get to, oh really, because my status is higher than yours, so you are the executor, they're the ones who are acting in fraud and theft and connivance, not us. And all these, any court without a jury present is an administrative court. We've got to kind of get back to making our courts public again, and not these private places of business, which is exactly all that they are now. And obviously that's why see person your straw man C corporation, Black's Law, etc. So that's how they're getting away with it. So we get rid of that and get people, having the right tools to be able to have the right words in the right order at the time, even though the court is the paperwork. So it's the paperwork with the action. But if we do it as a group action as well, hold these, they're not true GB bailiffs. They're just private enforcement officers, like working in, and I'm just about to do a video tomorrow on liability orders. There's no court memorandum, there's no adjudication, they've not even seen a courtroom, it's not even sniffed one, and this is the power that we have if we just, but it's about holding them accountable and and enforcing it. Because if we just send in notices, then yeah, shut up, they'll just ignore it. But if we're coming for your house, if we make you publicly and privately liable, if we come for your house, we come for your car, and we're starting to come for your life, and if we get you in fraud, that's 7 to 10 years in prison for you, then they're not good. I was just doing my job, isn't standing up anymore. And it is that spooky battle, isn't
it? It's interesting. I had a situation last year where I was on a second farm I had, where I was always under bombardment for the council, and the council lady who dealt with it was lovely, but as she said, I'm just doing my job. So I said to her one day, can you give me a copy of your personal liability insurance, please? Your indemnity insurance. She said, sorry. Yeah. No, I've got the council's indemnity insurance. I said, no, I want yours personally. I'm taking you to court for your illegal dealings with this. She resigned. She lasted 2 weeks after I asked for that, and she left.
Yeah. Exactly that, and that's it. That becomes like a thing where we can actually go after them, and they don't realise that, and because all governments, they've all incorporated, all the councils have incorporated, and when they do incorporate under the Clearfield Doctrine, they lose all cloak of government authority. So it's again, the judge becomes the janitor at McDonald's. Try telling them that with minion syndrome, as I call it, when they're coming at you, and the police are just policy officers now. It's all incorporated under the Corporations Act. So that's a private security guard coming telling you what to do, and we know they're not there to serve and protect us anymore. They're serving and protecting their masters, and as we've seen, like with Bannerman and people like that, with they're not even following any of their own rules. All these warrants are just unsigned nonsense. And this is what we've just got to. This is what we're trying to do. Just kind of make it really simple for people on key points, because all you need is a couple of key points, rather than, because I've done it to myself. You can bog your own head with this stuff. You obfuscate your own mind. But if we can just try and get it simple, we're about to kind of go and start doing workshops up and down the country for people, to show people how to do void orders, because that's a really powerful thing. Because that's all this bullshit is coming from these admin courts. If you're a living man and a woman, we can just void the order. Liability orders, send them back to your Section 151 officer, because under Section 79 of the Local Government 1888 Act, all liabilities of the inhabitants, and we are the inhabitants, we're not citizens, we're not state citizens, all liabilities of the inhabitants become the liabilities of the council once they incorporate. That's in superior statute. So again, it's just using lawful rules, wrapping them up with their own bullshit, because they have to follow it, because they are technical public servants. All right, they're not operating in the public at the moment and breaching every Nolan principle going, but they have to follow that. The rules are for them, they're not for us. And it's getting that and nailing that in our, like Mark's done, standing your ground and going, get to, as we say in Bolton. I don't, it's dead simple in a way, but it's not.
Kevin, what do you make of what Carly's saying there? Because Carly's like gone really deep into the the Black's Law stuff and corporation stuff. Is that all ringing true with you as well? What she's saying there, Kevin? I'm guessing he's. Can you hear me, Kevin?
You broke up.
Oh, Kevin, I was just saying what Carly's saying there. Is that all kind of ringing true with you? Yeah. Can someone else?
Oh yeah. No, it's the paper game. That's why psychologically it's also important to set up your own common law courts, because what you've done is you've taken your mental energy out of their system and putting it into your own, and it frees up people. It gives them courage, confidence. I've known people who for years batter away trying to make the system accountable, and it's them up against this whole monolith, and it's very difficult to sustain that over time, right? So we need to create these alternatives on our own front, so that we're We're adjudicating. We're issuing the summons. You know, we're doing that. What they say in the art of war, you turn the energy around on the system. You don't feed it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in the trial by jury, certainly over here, we have the ability to nullify. It's not just guilty or not guilty. The jury can say nullification. So any unjust legislation or law, if that goes to an actual lawful court under a trial by jury, we can cancel it out. You know, the power always is with the people to do that, because we create, they can't create. So the system weirdly works quite well, but it just doesn't work for us because they've taken it and we've forgotten, I believe. But
I think you're right. Let's face it, we all know there's a different way to do it.
Yeah, and it's actually like, I've been at this game for like 4 years. You know, I've got a law degree. You know, I went to uni and all that, but I never kind of used it. I was a yoga teacher before the pandemic and etc. So I don't really. Me and Pete still have this conversation on email today. It's not like something we actually want to do. You know, it's like people go, oh yeah, you know, kind of like doing it. You know, you get all the shill stuff, and you get, you know, people saying you this and that. You know, as soon as you stick your head above that parapet, they're going to come and try and chop it off. Discredit's always the first one. You know, I've had so many things discredited, but you know, I just keep carrying on because it's not about me. I was going to be an actress when I was young, and I couldn't be bothered with it because I'm a bit of an introvert in many ways, and the only thing that got me up onto a stage with a microphone was this nonsense and all this malarkey and all this injustice and all this suffering and death. And I was like, hang on a minute. And I think that's all that it is. Like, again, it goes back to what you guys were saying. It's just about standing up and doing something, whatever that thing is. And if everybody did that, you know, it's like, what can I do, said 63.5 million people in this country. Whereas if we all just do it, and obviously 20 odd million of them are public servants as well, and that's what we're up against, people who aren't probably bad people in that essence, but are just doing their job. And if we can get that crossover, which I'm not particularly great at, because you know, sometimes I think I'm a bit too far gone. But again, that's why we're just trying simplify it now. But people do have to start, you know, there is a standing your ground element to it, you know, even if you have to go in front of one of those fake, you know, pseudo courts. But if you've got, like, we've had success in that, we've just trained a guy up who did that and walked out. So it's, you know, it is just about having the Billy bollocks to do it in lots of ways, but not everyone's ready for that. But we can try and make it as simple as possible.
Yep.
Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I would love to. Let's say if we were to create like an online workshop type thing, if we could all maybe put a little template together, and then we could all come into that and work out how we can harness our strengths and then go away and then implement certain things. You know, Kevin was talking about that, Carly. You know, like how we can all create like a little workshop, and then we can get our people in our own communities to sort of join into it. I think that's got to be the way we've got to start doing things now. You know, really actioning some of this stuff. So. Yeah, I'm keen to do something like that. Maybe that can be, but it's nice that all you three met as well here, because I really wanted to connect you three in, because we've all got very, you know, you've all got very powerful.
Curly Ann, would you mind putting your email addresses?
Yeah.
Yes.
Type that in. By the way, just whilst you're doing that, I'll just go through a few questions here. Mark, how many of the farmers are awake, do you think? Someone said.
About 0.1%.
Oh God!
I hate to say it, but it's
Come
true.
on, farmers, wake up.
Very, very few.
That's a shame,
I have to
isn't it?
say.
Really. So you have.
We only
I
need
thought
5%. 5%.
How many
What did they say? 5 to 7% is the tipping point, right?
Yeah,
5 to 7%.
it's very low at the moment, I have to say. I think they're starting to wake up. Interestingly, I had a conversation with a guy I'd never met before. Met him in my farm shop the other evening, got talking to him, and he's got a farm just the other end of the village, but I didn't know who he was. And got talking to him, and by the time I'd finished talking about net zero and about cows and, you know, farting and what was going on, he was like, well, tell me a little bit more. And then since then, he's been in touch, and we've, you know, had several conversations, and he's definitely awake now. And I think, you know, I set up a thing earlier this year called Strive for 5. So this is where every day you do 5 things that step you away from the system. So for me, you know, I do 5 things each day. So I won't use supermarkets. So, you know, 5 things might be that I encourage other people not to use supermarkets, not to go to the big petrol stations, to go to the smaller ones, which are family owned, You know, it might be to not pay a bill or whatever that might be, but find 5 things every day and that step you away from the system, and do them religiously day in, day out. You know, you're not talking about, you know, hardship here. You know, if you need a bag of sugar, don't go to Tesco's for it or wherever else. Go to one of the little family stores, you know, go to a farm shop and buy your potatoes instead of going into the supermarket. There's so many things people can do. They have all the power they have because they have control of the money. What people, and this is what really I find brilliant in all of this. So they created a bogus system as by where they would print false money, give it to us and exchange it with us for the things we have. So if we have a field, for instance, they'll come along and say, I'll give you £25,000 for that field, and here's the money. And you take it, and they now have the physical, tangible asset, and we just have a bunch of trash paper which isn't worth anything. It's not backed by anything. It's not achieving anything. And that, I think, once they finally go for this big crash later this year, when the system hits the ground and the money all eliminates itself, they've got all the assets, we've got nothing, and they've bought it with nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of weirdly hilarious, isn't it? Like, you know, when you kind of do start to grab your popcorn and look at the whole thing, it is an illusion in the minds of men. The whole system is built on just it's literally built on sand. And we make it real with our minds, like you say. And I know that the banks at the moment are employing more people, getting ready for the big sweep, because actually they want the piece of paper. They want to come and strip. You know, it's always been about asset stripping, but this is that last bit, isn't it? And like you say, farmers are certainly the last free men on the land, you know, and that's why we need to kind of support them and help protect the land, because as soon as that goes, you know, it's like the bees going. You know, it's kind of that important, which is why I'm hopping on the food thing at the moment. And if I can help that with the law, that there's no kind of greater cause at the moment really than that one. And trying to get people to wake up to that one. You know, when the food's gone, it's gone, and then you will eat the bugs, and you won't be very happy. So it's just like, you know, come on, people.
You're going to starve otherwise. I think what I'm seeing in the food industry at the present is a complete destruction of the food industry worldwide. Is right on the toppling point. You know, we're down to that. This, in my opinion, will be the last harvest the British farmers do. After this year, it's game over. There is no seed. There is no land. There is no fertilizer. All the animals have been removed. DEFRA are culling all the animals. You know, the next thing's going to be bird flu and TB, and then they'll have all the excuses to get rid of the animals, and then we're in trouble. We're then completely in their hands to have factory farmed food. And what happens if the factory burns down? What happens if the factory isn't there? You know, if you've got 5 factories feeding the whole of the country, and somebody like decides that they don't like the idea of them being there and destroys them, then what?
Yeah.
We've got 100,000 independent farmers in the UK, and we've got 5 companies what control the food chain. That's wrong.
You know, I agree that it looks like it's heading that way, but even if that was true, and even if it was inevitable, we have to act like it wasn't. We have to act all the time like we are creating the alternative, because that's the only thing that's going to rally people and create the alternative. I know you know that. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but
yeah.
I'm going to say that to people listening, right?
Yeah. By the way, guys, I just got to say, sorry, Mark, you go, and then I just want to, I'll come in after what you're going to say,
Well, all I was going to say is, you know, I think that what I've seen in the food industry this year, I am a coordinator with the Land Workers Alliance, which is part of a worldwide network, the Viva la Campesina, and they've got thousands upon thousands of members worldwide that are all small independent farmers. And what we find is that if you take the acreage, and John and I had this conversation the other evening, if you take the acreage, what a commercial farm will farm to get per tonnage per acre is about 5 to 6 ton per acre. These small independent farms can farm at 40 to 50 ton an acre because the fertile land and the, you know, and they know what they're doing to get real big crops out, whether that's through, you know, horticulture. There's so many different I've been working with a guy who's working on this, this copper wires and getting the electricity out the air to, I can't remember what it's called, but this is just mind-blowing stuff. They can grow 40, 50 ton an acre, which says we don't need the amount of farmland what we had. So even if they take all the farmland away, we only need enough land. We could probably get away with 10% of the land we used to farm on if it was farmed correctly, if it was farmed, and the farmers actually understood about fertility. So not just chucking some more fertilizer on the field, about proper fertility, about putting manure back on the ground, putting mixed lays down and using that as a crop rotation. And we need all of that to move into the system. We need the old system to fall over in the next year, 5 years, and the new system to come through. And it's that new system what's going to be led by us guys, not them.
I love it, guys. I'm gonna have to end the stream because I've got to go out. But I'm so glad I got all three of you on, because I think that we can do some good things here. Let's make sure we follow this up and we have a bit of follow through with this. Let's try and.
Could you guys put your email addresses on the chat box if you don't mind, so I have them before we leave?
I wouldn't know how to, but I'll send it on to John quickly so he can forward it on to you.
Yeah.
John will have it. All right.
Yeah, I might even be able to do that now, actually.
Yeah, you too, guys. Nice to meet you. Thanks, John, as well, for inviting me, as ever.
No, it's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, because I just think you all need to meet. You all need to meet, because like we're all on the precipice of being able to make some serious change, but we need to just unite a few of us together to kind of really make a bit of a team to do this. So,
absolutely.
Mark, that's your email there, mate. Mark Byford at something Hotmail. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, markbyford68@hotmail.com.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I thought that would be a good idea, because then now we can start to think forwards now and solution orientated, and really, start to create some changes on the ground now. And I want to be a part of that. So if you guys ever want to start something and maybe do a little online workshop or something, let's do it and let's get it going. Yeah.
I think we just did.
Well, we did. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Let's get some more people on the next one then. All right. Thank you, guys.
John, thank you.
Let's all keep in touch over email. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye,
and be in
touch.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks,
Cheers,
everyone,
guys.
for watching.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.